Hi everybody, very welcome to yet another Sunday live stream. I can't believe it's already been a week since I saw you last time. I am really excited. I actually had to interrupt a dinner we had with some really good new friends that we've made to come over here and spend some time with you guys. And I'm actually going back to them later on because it's a typical Spanish dinner, which means that it starts at about 9:30 and then it continues to whatever time it takes to feed everyone properly. But anyway, so we're here. We're going to talk aviation. I hope you have your questions ready, and I really hope that my internet holds up. I'm still using my mobile phone to stream this, guys, so I am keeping my fingers crossed. If it does start to buffer, don't worry. I will do my absolute best to get back on track as quickly as possible. Now, you guys, you've probably been here for a while, so you've seen this before. You know that if you have something that's really important and you want me to answer, then use the super chat function. Otherwise, use the Mentour Aviation app. That will send me questions. I will answer them, and then I will go in and use the chat here as well to try to answer stuff. I've already seen some really great questions. I can't believe how good questions you guys come up with. Some of, this is what I feed from, okay? I see something and I think, yeah, I guess I haven't really explained that, and then I explain it in a video. So the more questions you guys ask, the better my channel will be, the more you will enjoy it. Okay, so we already have the first contributor in the super chat, Jay Ferguson. Thank you very much for being here and for supporting the channel. Hi Mentor, love the channel. I was wondering if there was an operational reasons why the captain sits in the left seat on commercial aircraft. Yeah, it's mainly a traditional reason. Okay, it had to do with most of the time the if I can't, I have read up on this actually. I think it had to do with the way that we tend to park closest to the terminal on the left-hand side, which means that if the captain is sitting on the left side, this is goes back to before we had jetways. Okay, the aircraft tend to come in and park the aircraft with the left side towards the terminal, and obviously if the captain is then sitting in the left side, he or she will have a better view over the wing on that side to make sure it doesn't hit any obstacles. So yeah, it did have a reason, not so much anymore, but now it's more tradition, I'd say. For example, I am cleared to operate both from the left and the right side. So when I train new captains, or if I do an intermediate line check on a captain, for example, or something like that, then I will be sitting on the right-hand side, even though I'm the captain. So it's perfectly possible to do both of them. Right, so then we have someone who retracted the message for some reason, but thank you anyway, because it seems like you have been contributing anyway. If you did have a question, then feel free to contact me inside the Mentour Aviation app, and I will try to answer any question that you might have had. Sai Sandkalp has also contributed without a question, so thank you very much. Let's see, I'll take some questions from the chat here while we start off. Hey Peter, can you explain the numbers on the course on the autopilot? Yes, there are many numbers. It depends a little bit on what you're thinking about. The autopilot can both control the course of the aircraft, which of course then has 0 to 360 or 0 to 359 on it, which chooses which direction the aircraft is going to be heading. Okay, so if we use heading select and we push that button, then we can tell the aircraft which degree we want it to follow. Then you have the altitude, which speaks for itself. You set what altitude the aircraft is supposed to climb or descend to, and you put that in. We choose what kind of bank angle the aircraft can bank with, so anything from I think it's 5 to 30 degrees can be put in through there. And then you have the course selectors, which are there to set inbound courses, for example, on the ILS heading, if we're going to do an ILS, or if you want to fly a radial to or from a radio beacon, then those also have 360 degrees that you can choose from, depending on what direction you're going to choose. So there's many numbers, and you're going to have to specify it a little bit if you want me to explain it more than that. Let's see, there was someone asking here about sunburn. Yeah, as you might see, if you see here, for example, you can clearly see that I've been wearing sunglasses. It's because it's been a fantastic weekend in Catalonia, and my son is playing horseball. So we've been out watching horseball this weekend, and there was so much sun, and I forgot to put my sun cream on, which I need because I'm a redhead. So it really burned. Okay, not too bad. I mean, I used to get blisters and stuff when I was small, but not that much. But yeah, that's the answer to that. Cool. So let's see. More. There's loads of questions here. You seem like you're in an extremely good mood today. I'm always in a good mood when I talk to you guys. This is the, people ask me if I had a good weekend, and I always try to finish it off in a good way. And this is a good way to finish it off. I am so glad that there's so many of you who are joining the channel. And if you're a new one who's never seen this before, this is why I'm doing this. Okay, I want to be able to answer your questions directly, to interact directly with the people who are enjoying the channel. And I find this, every Sunday makes me more and more happy. So yeah, I am in a good mood. Thank you for asking. So Nifetra Butter is asking as well. I just flew today in a 737-700 and the captain raised the flaps up only 10 seconds after we lifted off. Is this normal? 10 seconds sounds a little bit early, to be honest. It's probably felt like 10 seconds, probably was a little bit more. We start to retract at 1,000 feet above ground level. So it is very early, okay? But 10 seconds is approximately the time it takes to rotate and get it up to climb angle. So I'm guessing that it probably was more like maybe half a minute. That would probably explain a little bit less, 20 seconds maybe. So yeah, that would be normal. DPM 1982, thank you for supporting the channel. Great to see. Daniel Bengtsson, hey. Hi Mentor, thinking of Southwest Airlines flight 1380, or new aircraft slightly safer? The general answer to that is yes and no, because all aircrafts are supposed to be safe. Okay, there are basically no old aircraft. They might be old, but as in the airframe is old, but every single part of an aircraft is being continuously checked, x-rayed and examined and replaced. So if you fly an aircraft that's from the 1980s, you can be pretty sure that every single critical component inside of that aircraft has been changed. Probably a few times, okay? But yeah, brand new aircraft will be less likely to suffer from metal fatigue. We don't know exactly what caused the fan blade to break on the Southwest flight, but it's likely to be metal fatigue. And what has actually happened, and what always happens when you have things like this, is that CFM has gone out with a warning saying to all operators that uses this type of engines that engines that have more than a certain number of cycles needs to be examined, needs to be x-rayed. So all operators, including my operator, now have that, and they've taken the aircraft in for doing extra inspections to make sure that there's nothing wrong with the fan blades. It is perfectly likely that this fan blade issue is something that was just maybe a bad batch of fan blades. It's perfectly possible, but in aviation, we never assume anything like that. We always take everyone in, check them. So now all the CFM 56 engines, which are the same engines that I operate, will be examined when they reach a certain number of cycles to make sure that there's no metal fatigue. So yeah, the answer to the question is yes and no, as always. Why not? Let's see. Why not? I want to be a pilot in the RAF, the Royal Air Force. How much do you come into contact with military pilots? And do you have to take care to avoid air bases? I don't get into contact with active military pilots very often. The only time I would be in contact with them would be if I had lost radio contact and they came up and kind of flanked my aircraft, which would be a bad day for me. They do from time to time, they come into the civilian roles and they join my airline, and they're almost always very skilled aviators. We do avoid RAF bases, but not consciously, as in I'm not looking at charts to make sure I avoid them unless they're on an approach chart or departure chart. But air traffic control takes care of that. Okay, so we are being radar vectors. If a military base opens up, for example, open up operation, then air traffic control will be told to keep the area free of civilian traffic, and we will be kept free, basically. So that's it. And if you're wondering what I'm doing here, it's Molly who is here, and she has been alone the whole evening, so she didn't want to be alone anymore, so she's here. So I have to furiously pet her like this, otherwise she's not happy. Cool. Anyway, to become an RAF pilot is different. There are different requirements. So what I would tell you to do is just go into RAF to their webpage. They're going to give you guidance on how to apply for it, and I'm sure you know pretty much what kind of applications you're looking forward to, and they're probably going to be grueling, but I wish you the absolute best of luck. Okay. Wilfred Dake, hi Mentor. Why United, Delta, and American Airline does not order the A380? Do you think it might be some problem with it? I think they tend to stick to Boeing since they're American, and that would be the first reason. Second reason is that the A380 there's nothing wrong with it. It's a fantastic aircraft. I flew in it myself as a passenger not too long ago, and it's quiet, it's efficient, it's good. But when Airbus constructed it, they thought that the airline world would look different than it does today. Okay, they thought that what was going to happen was that the airline traffic would be more condensed into big hubs, and since there is only a certain amount of slots available in the big hubs, then they would require bigger aircraft to fly. So they were basically betting on a hub trajectory where smaller airlines will be feeding into the larger hubs in London, Hong Kong, Los Angeles, New York, and so on. And from the hubs, they would then continue out. Okay, what has actually happened is that the airline business has become more diverse. They've been starting to use secondary airports, and people are flying point to point much more than the hubs, which means that the A380 is way too big. And it has 4 engines. When you have 4 engines, it means that it is twice the amount of maintenance needed than with 2-engine aircraft. That costs a lot of money. That increases the seat cost. So what you tend to have is that you have airlines like Emirates, for example, who I think is one of the few airlines who has managed to fill the 380 on a lot of its routes. Most airlines suffer from a big difference between high season and low season capacity. And if you have loads of 380s flying and you basically can only fill them during the summer month, for example, then during the winter month they're going to cost a fortune to keep. So that's why the 777 and the Airbus 350, for example, are probably better choices for most airlines because they have less capacity, yes, but you can also fill them up to greater capacity during the low season, and they will cost less. So this is a mathematical function. Okay, aircraft manufacturers, they're betting, since it takes about 20 years to make a completely new aircraft type, they're betting on a model. Okay, they think that this is probably the model that is going to work. Airbus bet on the wrong model, looking back at it. So the A380 is not selling very well because of that. But who knows? It might change in the future. But it's not looking great for them at the moment. So DP Stark 456, thank you very much. Do you have a video about reverse thrust and how they work? No, I haven't done that yet. I am looking into doing that. I can explain it, but yes, there will be a video coming up. I think Captain Joe has made a video about it, which is great. You can have a look at that. Yeah, it's a great suggestion. I'm going to look into it, and I'm probably going to do a video about it as well because I'm getting a lot of questions on it. So why not? I've already sent in my first application. Excellent. So once again, I'm wishing you the best of luck. I really, really hope that you get through. And like I'm always saying, guys, the only thing that limits you is your own attitude. Okay? Unless you have something medical that stops you, then you can achieve absolutely everything. Right? It might not be easy. It might be hard to reach that goal. It might take you years to do it. If you don't have the money, you might have to work to get the money. But anything is possible, guys. Never ever underestimate yourself. You set your targets. You set your limitations. Don't let anyone ever tell you off. Okay? People without dreams will always try to stop people with dreams from achieving them, because when people without dreams see someone succeed with their dream, it makes them feel bad, right? It makes them feel less. And unfortunately, a lot of the people that are the ones that are worst stopping our dreams are the people that are closest to us. It could be because they want to protect us from failure, or it can be some kind of misled way of helping, or it might be what I just said. But if you have a dream and you want to try to achieve it, don't let anyone stop you from doing that. Okay, very, very important. You can do it. It might not be the easiest way. You are going to fail at some point or another, but just use that failure as a learning point so that you can use it as a stepping stone to get yourself higher. You can do it. Okay, every one of you who are out there listening to this, I am a living, breathing example of that. Okay, I built my life around trying to get into that flight school, the government-sponsored school in Sweden, and I was about this close to fail that because I had overbuilt myself. I had pushed my up. This is the only way that I can become a pilot. If I can't get in here, it's over. I thought I'd failed it. I thought I'd failed the test. I came home and I ripped off all of the like posters and stuff that I had up on the wall. I was so disappointed. My mom and dad were crushed because they had really supported me in my quest for getting there, and I thought that I had gone down there and blew it. Now it turned out that it wasn't as bad as I thought it would be. It wasn't great. I did the tests. They weren't as great as I would have hoped they would be, but they were good enough to kind of squeeze me in anyway. All right, so I managed to do it. But remember that even if you fail on your primary way, the thing that you think are going to bring you there, there's going to be 1,000 other ways to get you there. Okay, I don't know why I came in on that road, but I thought I needed to tell you that. All right, so more questions here. When General Electric came out with the directive on the fan blades on the CFM, did you say that the directive went to all operators of CFM or just the airlines involved in the incident? Everyone. All right, as far as I know, all the operators that are operating that type of engine have gotten the same directive all over the world. Okay, then it's going to be up to the governing authorities like the EASA, for example, or the local CAAs to rule if it's going to be a rule or if it's going to be a recommendation. That's something different. But most airlines that get a directive like that from an engine manufacturer will just go through with it, make sure that it's safe, because safety is always our primary concern, guys. Always. Wait, I'm just gonna take a bit of coffee. And the cups are on the way, guys. Well, before I forget it, I've just launched a new video inside of the Mentour Aviation app. Okay, this is something I promised that I would do. Every month now, I'm going to post a video. It's a very short video, basically just thanking you for your support. It's a video that costs 3 credits, which is the equivalent of $3. And the reason I'm doing that, guys, is because I need to fund the app in one way or another. And I'm doing that so that people who want to support the application can go in and buy that monthly video. But I'm never going to force anyone to actually subscribe in the current version. Okay? So there's no subscription. People who want to support can go in and they can buy this video. There's a little game inside of it. It's a little competition. So I've put the competition in there for people who buys the video can see what it is, and you can participate. And I will send out a good prize to a lucky winner. But the main point I want to say here, guys, is that it's only for people who want to support the app. Okay, if you want to support the app, if you think I'm doing a good job inside of it and you want me to continue building on it, then you can help the app out by buying these monthly subscriptions, or one of them, or all of them, or something like that. But it's greatly appreciated. So, Rahul Ranjan, is any difference between captain and first officer license, or the only flight hours that matters? Yeah, it is a difference. In order to fly as a first officer, you need a CPL, a commercial pilot license. But in order to fly as a captain, you need an air transport pilot license, an ATPL. Okay, and the ATPL, you need to study a little bit more theory. This is something that generally, when you do your training, you write your exams for your CPL, you can choose to write your exams then for your ATPL as well, which is just slightly more advanced, but at least you have that done for when it's time to bring up your ATPL later on. Okay, so that's what you do. You have to do that, and then you have to do a skill test. And so once you have reached 1,500 hours of total time, and there's some other requirements as well, you need a certain number of peak hours, which, if I'm not mistaken, is 200. It might be even more, 500 maybe. which you can do as pilot in command under supervision as well. So if you're a first officer, you can actually log, providing that your airline agrees with that, you can log half of the hours you're flying when you're flying as pilot in command under supervision. To reach those hours, you need a certain number of hours in darkness and things like that. But once you have that, then you can do a skill test for your ATPL, and you can lift the ATPL. Okay, and that's the certificate you need in order to become a captain. What is the most scary moment you've had flying, from Gemma Barclay? Now, the thing with, and I do get this question quite a lot, but I can't really pinpoint a moment that was most scary. All right, and that's because the way that we're trained is that if we encounter a difficulty, like when you think of being scared, you think about fearing for your life or fearing for your safety or something like that. But the thing is, we are trained that if something happens, we are looking into, together as part of the crew, looking into a possible solution to it. Which means that if a critical situation occurs, we don't really have time to sit back and be afraid. We have to work to make sure that we resolve it in a way or another. So that means that you're not afraid when it happens. Like, I've had flap problems, for example. I've flown into areas where there was not supposed to be thunderstorms, but there were thunderstorms, and that was blocking our destination and possibly coming up to block our alternate as well. It becomes complicated then. Okay, but that just means that the pilots focus more, and it becomes more intense, more focused in the cockpit. Maybe afterwards you have time to get scared. When you're down on the ground, then you can let yourself be worried. Okay, if there was something critical that happened. But in the moment, we don't, generally speaking. Now, I've been fortunate enough, touch wood, to not have had any like critical failures like Southwest 1380, for example, where you have multiple things happen at once. But we all hope and aspire that we all are able to solve the situation in the same way as the captain and the first officer and the flight crew and air traffic control did on that day 2 weeks ago. So, Wilfred Dake, during crash investigation, did you think the investigator will sometime pull the fault on the pilot, put the fault on the pilot? Yes, frequently that happens, but they don't say that it's a pilot's fault. They say what happened, all right, and that the human factor was involved in one way or another. The problem is that human factor can be involved even if it's technical. It can be a failure by the human to resolve a technical fault, for example. So ultimately, the pilots are always going to be, unless there's something catastrophic that happens, the pilots tend to get some kind of blame. Okay, unfortunately that's the case. The human is viewed as the weakest part of the weakest link in the chain. But the problem with that, which is something that I really pointed hard at in my special video that I did about the Southwest incident, is that the human factor on a day-to-day basis is what makes sure that aircrafts are not falling down. Okay, the pilots are resolving issues on a daily basis all the time in multiple ways. Okay, there's loads and loads of times where you will never ever hear about it. Okay, where there's a tiny little problem, or there's a potential problem, there's a potential traffic issue or whatever, where the pilots can see that and far away tell their traffic controllers that, listen, this is about to happen, let's get ourselves there. Or they can see a technical fault about to happen and they can secure that system before it happens. Like, frequently, the human factor is actually what's saving the situation. Okay, it's when the human factor does not fix the situation, that's when it becomes headlines. When several safety layers have been penetrated and the human factor, the pilots or the cabin crew or air traffic control, does not stop it, and something happens, something horrible potentially, that's when it's being blamed on them. Like, this, look, that's the human factor. But what I want to point my finger at in the case of the Southwest Airlines, which is what I'm trying to say now, is that, listen, look what the human factor can do. Look what the crew can do when they're faced with situations that they have never been trained for. Things that they've trained differently, but they've never trained those two scenarios together. I can almost guarantee that. Look at what they can do. Look at what the Did you see how that aircraft looked? Did you see how the wing looked? How the engine looked? The aircraft was safely down on the ground anyway. Unfortunately, one passenger was killed in this incident anyway. That will probably be investigated how that could happen in the first place, and it's very, very tragic for everyone involved, the family, all the ones that were hurt as well. But they got the aircraft down in more or less one piece. Okay, and that is a fantastic achievement, which should be attributed to the human factor. The human factor should not always be used for negative stuff. It should be used for positive stuff as well. And then you would read in the newspaper every single day how the human factor was involved in solving a problem or fixing something or saving people's lives. And that goes not only for aviation, that goes for everything. Train drivers, professional truck drivers, people working in any kind of area. Healthcare. Look at healthcare, for example. It's a perfect example. Emmett Espay, how can I prepare for a cadetship assessment? Well, if you go back into my videos, you'll see that I did a video about how to ace an airline interview. Okay, check that out. In there's a link to a company that I use, that I work together with to develop an app for interview preparation. Okay, you can use that app, but you can also look at a company called SkyTest, I think. I haven't checked them out myself, so I can't guarantee how good they are, but I've heard from different sources that SkyTest or Sky Assessment, but SkyTest I think they're called, they do assessment preparation for the kind of problem-solving stuff that you need to do during a typical assessment. So go and check that out. It will cost money. Anything that's good in this world, unfortunately, will cost money, guys. So you will probably have to pay for it. But if you're going for an airline assessment, it might be worth it to kind of, relieve your mind a little bit and get yourself a little bit more acquainted to what you can expect on the day. At least I would feel better if I kind of recognize the stuff that I was getting rather than seeing it for the first time. So check that out. There's more videos, there's loads of videos, there's loads of material out on the internet about how to prepare for different airline assessment. But the best advice I can give you is come there well prepared, be honest, be yourself, and that's pretty much it. All right, they will want to know if you will be able to do the job. So show them. That's it. Right, so let's see. I'm a little bit behind. What is the meaning of Speedbird Heavy call sign? That Speedbird is British Airways. So British Airways uses the call sign Speedbird. Heavy means that they are normally heavy from a wake turbulence category. I don't know exactly where the limit goes, to be perfectly honest. I have to check that out. But for example, a 747 fully loaded will be heavy. An Airbus 380 fully loaded will be heavy. I think in some cases the 767, the 777 can also be. So the bigger aircrafts basically that can come up in heavy wake category might sometimes put heavy together with it. Oh, Molly. Oh, vänta. Yes. So that's what it means basically. It's a big bird coming in. Speedbird, Emirates, anything really. Cathay. So let's see. The next one is there a general procedure for when to turn off the autopilot during a Cat 1 ILS? No. All right. The answer to that is no. You can turn it off early if you want to hand fly it. You can turn it off mid approach if you want to hand fly from there, or you can turn it off just before minima or above 158 feet, which is the minimum use height during a single engine ILS. So above 158 feet, you can pretty much disengage it on a Cat 1 ILS whenever you want. Cat 2, Cat 3, you need to keep the autopilot in for landing. Okay. So the way that we tend to do it is depending on if I'm at my home base, for example, and I feel like I'm flying it, I would probably disconnect it just prior to the final turn to get a little bit of feeling, practice hand flying a little bit. Otherwise, if the weather is poor, we tend to keep the autopilot in for longer. So maybe just before minimums, you disconnect it to make sure the aircraft is fully stabilized, fully trimmed out, and you can concentrate on just viewing the visual cues outside. There's a lot of message retracted here. I don't know why that is, guys, but I'll continue to answer anyway. What is the biggest misconception the general public have about pilots? Probably that we're perfect, that we don't make, that we're, that we have to uh, be perfect medical specimens, that we don't use glasses, that we, are well trained, as in worked out, pilots, especially commercial pilots, are completely normal human beings, right? Normal. We wear glasses. I wear glasses. All of those kind of things. So I think that there is a little bit of a misconception when it comes to that, or probably a big one. Otherwise, there's probably a lot of misconceptions. The thing with aviation is, and that's what I'm building this entire channel on, is that people see these big metal tubes that is going to hurl them down a runway at 300, 400 kilometers per hour, and then bring them up to twice, like 40,000 feet, and then get them down again in one piece, and they don't understand anything, or very, very little, about the physics behind it, about the mechanics behind it, behind the procedures behind it. Okay, people are just sitting there. They see that something has happened. It is kind of like magic, that nothing happens. But what I want to do with this channel is to explain to people that there is no magic here. All right, and this is only really dedicated hard work by generations of pilots and mechanics and aircraft manufacturers and ramp workers and air traffic controllers and dispatchers. The whole team involved is there to make sure that every flight is equally safe and follows the same kind of procedures. That the times that you are annoyed because you are being delayed because of a technical delay, because the crew has run out of hours, because air traffic control restrictions, every single one of those delays are there for a safety reason, unless there is an air traffic control strike or something like that, which might be to a certain extent a commercial reason. But most of the things that you see, even though they might be annoying, are there for your safety. All the annoying things that happens on the airport, more or less, are there because someone has gotten hurt, which has led to that procedure. What cabin crew tells you, how the aircraft are built, how they look, it's mostly, well, it's to a certain extent commercial, obviously, as well, because the airlines like money. But safety is always the founding principle. So there's loads and loads of misconceptions out there. If you have something that you think is a misconception, please tell me. I'd love to debunk it. This is exactly the kind of thing I have built this channel for. So bring it to me. So the sweet déjà vu. How do you determine where the center of gravity is? And what the takeoff weight is, since every flight has different passengers and luggage. Well, we use a system called standard weights. Okay, it's not 100% accurate, but it's very close to accurate. So the system basically is built on we assign a certain weight to an adult passenger, a child passenger, an infant is included in the weight of the adult. Okay, we also have a standard weight for baggage, and those combined, let's say that we have 180 passengers, out of which 20 is children. Well, then 160 we just add, take the adult weight plus 20 for the child weight plus whatever baggage they have, where they're seated inside of the aircraft, and then depending on where they're seated, they will have different effect on our center of gravity. So we're using a standardized way of calculating the center of gravity, and even though that is not 100% perfect, it evens out over a number of passengers to being very, very close to exact. So that's how we do it on a daily basis. Then you can have, in very special circumstances, if you're flying a full flight, let's say I would fly a full flight of sumo wrestlers. Okay, if that was the case, then I would know that the standard weights are probably not accurate, right? Because every one of them is above. In that case, I could ask for a weighing of the passengers, but I have never done that in my entire career. I never even heard of that happening unless you're flying a smaller aircraft type or something extreme. Okay, then how to actually calculate the center of gravity, that is a science in itself. And when you do your ATPL theory, this sounds like someone is shooting a cannon outside of the window here. So that's why I'm looking outside. I don't know what's going on. Hopefully it's because Barcelona has won a game. Then there tends to be loads of firework and things. Anyway, yeah, it's a science. So this is, when people ask me that, why do I need math? Why do I need to understand math and physics? Right, there's very, very good reasons for that. Some of those reasons you will find when you're trying to do your weight and balance calculations during your ATPL theory. There's a lot of different diagrams that you need to be able to interpret. You need to be able to calculate weight and balance very, very accurately. And this, together with things like formulas during your meteorology, during your navigation, stuff like that, is why you need to understand maths. Okay, because you will be faced with formulas. And by the way, so I'm getting some feedback, not much feedback, but some feedback about the sponsors that I've taken into the channel. You've already noticed that Brilliant.org, for example, are sponsoring me. Okay, there will be a new company coming up as a sponsor very soon. Actually, there's 2 of them coming up. Now, I'm doing this for different reasons. A, because I can. All right, because they fund what I'm doing with the channel. And what I'm hoping is that if this channel becomes big enough, if there are enough of you out there who likes what I'm doing, well, then I'll be able to maybe scale down the flying a little bit and concentrate more on creating great content for you guys. Maybe going out and visiting flight schools, or do actually in-flight videos and things like that. Now, in order to do that, I need sponsors. But the way that I choose sponsors, guys, is that I choose sponsors that I think will increase the likelihood of you guys succeeding. So if there's a company coming up to me and saying, listen, can you help us sell our cigarettes? I will say no, I won't. Okay, I don't need that. If a company comes up to me and says, listen, we have a product that helps you with your aviation English, or which helps people with understanding maths and physics, or another kind of training or something like that, that is relevant to what you guys need, well, then I will consider them for being sponsors. Okay, this is why I chose Brilliant, because I checked out their website and I realized that, hey, this is great. If I was a young cadet, or even if I was in school and I wanted to become a cadet and I was struggling with math, which I was, guys. I really was struggling with maths when I was younger, especially when I was like from 10 to about 13 or 14. I hated it with a passion. Math, like homework, was the worst thing that you can give me. I still wake up sometimes in the middle of the night thinking that I have a math exam the following day and I haven't studied for it. For real, that happens, like post-traumatic stress syndrome. So I thought, if I would have had something that would have explained things to me, mathematics to me, in a smarter way, in a way that I could maybe, even if I didn't understand it, there would be another way of explaining it and another way. This is why I chose Brilliant.com to sponsor the channel, because I think they do that. I like their product, and I'm getting feedback from people who are using it, saying that, yeah, they are actually helping. So that's why I'm using sponsors like that, and you will see more of those sponsors coming up. If you want to check out Brilliant.com, by the way, this is not a sponsor message, but if you got inspired now and you want to check them out, use the link that I have in my last video, okay, in the previous video before that. Just click that one, because that would potentially give you some discounts if you need it, right? Cool. More French fruits. Is taxi speed up to a certain amount variable? I've had some flights where it feels like the pilot is going as fast as possible through turns. Yeah, we have maximum speeds. Okay, they're very, very determined, because high loads during turns is going to have high loads on the nose gear, which is not great, because the nose gear, as you've seen, is tiny. Okay. So the speeds that we have in my company, I can't speak for other companies, but in my company, we can go 30 knots in a straight line. That would equate to about 55 kilometers per hour. We can go 10 knots around the corner, which is more than 45 degrees of an angle. So we can go slightly quicker if it's a small turn, but if it's more than 45 degrees, then we need to slow it down to 10 knots, which is about 18 kilometers per hour, not very fast. We can go 15 knots maximum in a straight line on an apron. We can go 5 knots if it's slippery. Okay, so that's really slow. Okay, you can run faster than that. We can go 50 knots if we're backtracking on a runway. So if we need to expedite backtracking, for example, if there's other traffic, we can increase it up to 50 knots, that's quite a lot now. Now we're talking about 90 kilometers per hour or so. Right, so if you're feeling that the aircraft is going very quickly through turns and you're kind of feeling it, it's likely that the pilot is actually speeding. All right, and that could be for different reasons. It could be because he wants to get home quickly, which I'm not hoping, but it's more likely that you have an airport like Barcelona, for example, where there's about 20-25 minutes potentially of taxi time, and the pilots always just want to get up onto the runway and get off, right? Fly. So that's probably why. But those are the factual speeds. So if you're in line training, now that's a standard question I will be asking. And by the way, guys, tomorrow I'll be flying again. I'm going to be flying to London and to Bristol tomorrow, and it looks like it's going to be really, really sporty weather in the UK tomorrow, with gusts up to 40-45 knots. So that'll be interesting, and I'm going to do that with a cadet who's line training and a safety pilot, which means that the cadet is fairly new. So that should be an interesting day for all of us, I would say. Wilfred, Dake, are training schools better in Europe? That depends on no. The answer to that is no. All right, there are great schools everywhere. There are great schools in all countries, and there are poor schools in almost all countries. So on an average, I can't tell you that this is better. Okay. By the way, wait. I've forgotten something. Let's see. All right, guys. Can you tell me? I'm just curious now. Can you tell me if the sound is better? If there's any change in the sound? Because I forgot to connect my great new microphone that I've just received from Paul, which is a great supporter both on Patreon, and he sent me this fantastic thing. So no, it's good. Sounds good. Sounds it's the same. Right. Cool. Anyway, we'll keep with this because this is fantastic looking mic. By the way, I have to show it to you guys because this is fucking awesome. Look, it's a Blue Yeti, the best microphone there is for these kind of things. So I'm hoping that it's good. Right, I'll continue. There's loads of super chat questions, guys, so I still have some few more to go. I want to take a couple of questions from the Mentour Aviation app. By the way, make sure that you have this. I know I tell you this on every single live stream, but I really want to emphasize this, guys, that the app will become better. Okay, I've actually started to talk to some potential sponsors for an upgrade. I am focusing on upgrading the chat to make sure it's better for you guys so that you can be more social and you can interact with each other better. But I'm also going to bring in the possibility for flight schools to show themselves off inside of the app. That will hopefully pay for the app so that I can stop asking you guys to buy my monthly videos. But get the app. It's free to download and it's free to use the chat. And I am there and I'm trying to answer questions when I can. Jambo, Mentor, are any decent kind of budget headset out there, ideally below 500? Yeah, there are, okay? You can look at David Clark, for example. I think they have some quite good passive headsets. But if you want a high quality active noise reducing headset, it's probably going to cost you more than $500, okay? If it's less than that, it's likely that it might not hold the same kind of quality. So, but you can get great passive headsets, which are still good, you know, for well below $500. So check that out. More questions. Tjena Petter, have you ever performed a NITS briefing? Why do you drink coffee so late? All right. Yes. NITS briefing I have done. Medical emergencies I've had to do NITS briefing. NITS is a way that we talk to the cabin crew in case of an emergency. So we specify what the nature of the emergency is, what the flight crew's intentions are, how much time they have before we're arriving, and any special procedures that needs to be done. So for example, an SOS demo. If we think that we're going to be evacuating, we will tell the cabin crew to do an SOS demo to get the passengers ready for a possible evacuation. So things like that. I have done that, but it hasn't been more than for medical emergencies. Right, so I have to get back to oh man, there's loads of super chat questions here. Great. I'm so happy that you're so engaged, guys. It's really, really great to see. So, training schools better in Europe. We'd cover that. No. So just make sure that you do check out your schools, all right? Before you sign up any kind of money, make sure that you have checked the school out, that you've visited them, that you've liked what they do and their instructors, everything, okay? Hi Mentor, I'm doing my PPL and will be starting my theoretical knowledge exams soon. Any tips, advice when it comes to studying for them? Thanks for the great advice and keep up the great videos. Yeah, I've done a few tips on this before, all right? First of all, make sure that you group, if you can group the exams together, make sure that you group them together so that you will have an equal workload over the different exam days, okay? Don't put too many exams on any given occasion, because it's better if you have maybe 3 different occasions and you spread the amount of exams out a little bit. At least this is my view. This is what I would do, right? I can't speak for everyone, but you want to try to achieve first-time passes if you can. So it's better to make sure that you're good enough on these 3 exams instead of having 4 exams and you've had to kind of skip one of the subjects a little bit and then risking of potentially having a fail in a subject that you really shouldn't have had one in, because it's really annoying. Some airlines will look for first-time passes on your exams, so just make sure that your workload is good enough, okay? When it comes to how to study, that's going to be up to you, right? I haven't done this for 20 years now. I can't believe it's been 20 years. Crazy, it feels like yesterday. Anyway, so you are going to have to find your own study rhythm. Just don't kill yourself, right? Make sure that you take a day off to visit your friends, go play some pool, drink some beers in between. Otherwise, you will work yourself to the bone, right? It's not good. But do that and focus on getting first-time passes. You know, that's a priority. Can you do a video about the Concorde? Thank you. You know, when it comes to making videos, what I prefer to do is I prefer to concentrate on making videos about things that I know personally or things that I can interview people about. Okay, the Concorde I would love to do about, but I think that I would have to go and visit like a society up in the UK. You know, Friends of Concorde, something like that. And the thing is as well, I think Captain Joe has already made a series about the Concorde, so there's very little extra I can add to that. So it's unlikely that I will be doing a Concorde series, unless someone calls me and tells me that we want you to fly it, in which case I will drop whatever I'm doing and come running. Why is the landing gear switch a wheel? Yeah, that's just from year old. It doesn't need to be. I'm guessing that it's to remind pilots maybe that it's the wheel that they're dealing with. I don't know exactly why they formed it like a wheel. It just is. I think it's just a traditional thing, really. On the 737, does the fuel in the center tank cross-feed into the wing tanks, or do they separately feed the engines? On the 737, the way that it works is that if we have fuel in the center tanks, it will be eaten up by the engines first, because the output pressure on the pumps inside of the center tank is higher than in the wing tanks. So as long as we have fuel in the center tank, it will be pushed out to its respective engines first. Right, so we always empty the center tank first, and then once it's empty, then we switch off the center tank fuel pumps, and the fuel comes from the main tanks after that. Okay, cross-feeding is something that we do if we have an imbalance. In that case, we open the cross-feed valves that opens up a line between the 2 main tanks, and then we switch off the pumps on the side that is lowest, so that both engines will now suck fuel from the tank that has more fuel in it. In that case, we can balance fuel. So that's how we do that. Ceneron, Cedric, I'm French and I want to do my FAA licenses. Is it possible to work in USA nowadays? I think so. I think the US have had a huge pilot shortage. They do still have the 1,500-hour rule though, which makes it hard. But I do think that it's up in Congress, if I'm not mistaken, to try to change those rules again, to do something about the pilot shortage. And I know that there's loads of personalities, loads of famous pilots in the US who are against that. Right, Captain Sully is one of them. He's been very clearly outspoken about changing those rules. So we'll see what happens. But you also need to have either citizen or a green card in order to work in the US. So you either find a beautiful American woman or man to marry, or you apply to become a citizen, or you apply to get a green card. But you need that. So you need the licenses, FAA licenses, and you need the right to live and work there. And then you at this time need 1,500 hours in order to apply for the airlines. But you can go there and you can work as a flight instructor to get those hours, for example. That's very common. What are from Boeing 787 Alpha Alpha, what are your favorite and least favorite things about the 737? My favorite thing is that it is very common sense. The aircraft is it does what you're expecting it to. It's fairly simple in its design and in its working. If you're a cadet doing this, you probably don't think that I'm right, but you will feel that way, right? The Boeing does what it says it's going to do. You see that the outer throttle is moving. You can see that the trim wheels are moving. You can see that the yoke is moving when the autopilot is engaged, which means it gives you a very good and clear picture of what's going on. It gives you situational awareness. And if something goes wrong, it's also fairly straightforward to kind of figure out what it is. My least favorite thing is probably the ergonometry, as in it's built like an aircraft from the 60s. It's very small in the cockpit, it's cramped. You have to be a contortion artist to kind of get out to go to the toilet, and it's very noisy. So compared to 787 or even an Airbus, it's going to be very noisy in the front. And the noisiness is just irritating. Like on a modern aircraft, it shouldn't have that amount of wind noise that we do, but we do. So that's it. So Kia Nagar, thank you very much. Carl Hillary, can I fit in planes other than the Cessna 172? I'm 195. Yeah, absolutely. I've flown with cadets that are well over 2 meters, so that shouldn't be a problem at all. Don't worry. Jordan calls, if you lost all radio comms, how are you supposed to land without clearance? Just go for it and hope ATC moves everything in your way? No, there's some very, very clear loss of comm procedures. Every country has its own. We have a manual, an ATC manual on board that states if there's a specific loss of comm procedure. In most cases, though, they just follow the international ICAO standard, which is you just basically fly the route. You fly in over your fix, you wait till your expected approach time. So you sit in holding until your expected approach time if you're early, and then you just initiate a descent and an approach squawking 7600. So it's, yeah, those, and there's some deal. If you're on the radar heading, you normally just fly the assigned heading for 7 minutes, I think. I can't remember exactly now. And then you resume the route and you go. So there are some really clear rules about this, okay? But every major airport, like for example Heathrow or Gatwick, or Stansted, or Frankfurt or New York, all of these have specific procedures because they're so big, so they can't have people coming in and putting in themselves in the hold and going in and landing. That might be that you need to divert to a specific airport, or that you have a specific procedure that you need to follow, but nothing happens by chance, not here, you know. But we do have 2 radios, sometimes 3 radios, and also when you get down, I would probably just get my mobile phone up, actually, and try to get a signal when I get a little bit down in altitude, and try to find an ATC unit and call them by phone. I know you're not supposed to use the phone, but in a case like that, I would consider at least trying to get any kind of communication. You know, you have to think outside the box, do whatever it takes. Right, so Aidan Fanning, hi Mentor, I suffer from poor English skills, speak it first language, but very bad spelling and also speech problem. Is it a real issue? You are going to have to improve that. Okay, it's important both because you are going to have to understand and communicate via radio. You're also going to have to understand and communicate clearly with both your crew, um, people working in the airport, your cabin crew, and there's no room for misunderstanding. So a good knowledge of at least the spoken word in English is important. Okay, written English is less important. You need to be able to write exams and to write reports and things like that. But yeah, I mean, you will be able to get through even if you do some spelling mistakes. I mean, now everything is done on computer and you will get the spell check on it. So don't worry too much about that. But the spoken word is really important. Guys, by the way, I can't take any more super chat questions now because I'm going to have to go and get my family who's still in my friend's house. So if you wanted to ask me something, just save it. Or get the Mentour Aviation app or ask me in the chat there or something. But not more super chat questions now because I just cannot answer them all. So, how did you gain all those knowledge about aviation? You're impressive. What is your temperament, by the way? This is my temperament. I am just like everyone else, right? Might be a try. I work every day on keeping myself happy. You know, thinking about things that I am grateful about. Every single day, I try to sit down and think about things that I am grateful about, and that includes my family, my job, my hobbies, the fact that I can walk, the fact that I am healthy. Those are the kind of things that keeps me and my temperament good and well balanced. But I get angry as well, and I get frustrated, and I get sad, just like everyone else. Anything else would be weird, you know. But I do try to stay positive, and that's why this is why this channel is this way, and this is why my app is this way, because I want to portray a positive and constructive picture to you guys. Okay, I want to explain things in a way that you feel that you can ask anything and get a respectful answer back. Okay, but I'm just like everyone else. If you meet me out on a bad day, you will think, I thought he was supposed to be happy all the time, but he was pissed off. So yeah, that happens. All right. If you're flying with me as a cadet, you will know that I am tired in the mornings and that I'm not sitting like this. It's not like listening to a mentor live stream to fly with me all the time. But I do try. I really want the best for people that I'm flying with, and that's the intention anyway. And if it doesn't always come through, unfortunately, that's something I still have to work on. Everyone needs to work on getting their best out of themselves. When it comes to my knowledge level, I would say that pretty much all my colleagues, all my training colleagues, have the same knowledge level as me. You know, if you've been 16 years in the same company doing the same thing, you should know a thing or two. Okay, the difference might be that I have chosen to speak about it, and there's loads of things that I don't know. There's loads of questions that I get that I have to go out and I have to check it out. I have to read up in my manuals, or I have to go out on the internet and look for it. So it's not like I'm this Wikipedia, Wikipedia, with aviation knowledge. Not true. Okay, I'm trying my best, and when I don't know something, you've already seen it. I say so. I say I don't know. I have to check it out. Okay, this is something, if you want to become an instructor ever, something you have to learn, that you don't know everything, you cannot know everything. There's just too much information, there's too much technical details, but some of it you will pick up and you will be able to explain it, hopefully. Good. Have you flown to Cork? Yes, I've flown to Cork many times. Cork is an interesting place. It's one of the few places where you can have a Cat 2 landing with almost maximum crosswind. Normally there's fog and there's no wind, but in Cork there's fog and wind and rain normally. But it's beautiful. I've flown in one of the first pictures that I put up in my Instagram account, which I hope you're all following, was a picture where I was flying in over Cork, and it's a beautiful picture of these kind of like moving, waving bright green landscapes as I'm coming into Cork. Beautiful. I love that part of Ireland, actually. I have friends from Killarney, which is actually, that's further up, that's up towards Kerry, but County Mayo. So I've flown from Cork, but County Mayo is close by-ish. Everything is kind of close in Ireland. But anyway, how long will you be staying for in Bristol? 25 minutes. So, not long. Right, Mentor, what is the best age to start flight school? I'm almost done with high school and I want to get my PPL. There's no best time, okay? Most start to pilot training maybe when they're 20 to 22, 23, something like that. Which is still very early. Some people start when they're 30, some people start when they're 40. I've even met a guy that started when he was 50. So you can start it at any point. If you want to start it, I would wait until you're at least 18, because there's no real point in starting before that. I started when I was 17, about to turn 18, okay, myself. So when you have the money and the possibility to get the licenses without stopping it, go for it. Guys, thank you very much for all of you who have been contributing in the super chat. I will take a few questions now from the normal chat as well. Let's see. There's people asking in Finnish here, and my Finnish is a little bit rusty, unfortunately. So I won't be able to answer that. So do you have to work or get up when you're tired, or sleep when you're not tired? Circadian rhythm disruptions. I am fortunate to work in an airline where we don't have too much work during the circadian low times. All right, so I normally fly either early, so in which case I will start taking off about between 6 and 7 in the morning. So yeah, I do get up early then, but not earlier than any other shift work you would. And I work normally to about midnight if I'm working on late. So even then it's not too much circadian shift. So yeah, I am lucky, but in this pilot job you might encounter that. How many languages do you have to know in order to become a pilot? Well, in theory, you only need one, which is English. If you're an English speaker, you don't really need more, unless you're going to work for an airline that needs more. Cool. More questions. I'll take some from the Mentour Aviation chat here. Why do some planes stop at the beginning of the runway while others begin takeoff immediately after entering the runway? That's a great question. That depends on if they've gotten their takeoff clearance or not. Sometimes we do get a conditional clearance saying that you can enter the runway, but you have to wait. Sometimes we get a clearance saying that you need to take off. If you can take an immediate takeoff, then you're cleared for it. In that case, we have to just enter and go, because there might be pilots in a different aircraft landing behind us, and the separation needs to be maintained. And sometimes there's a delay for whatever reason. There might be the previous aircraft might be taking off and taking the same route as we are going to take. In that case, there needs to be time separation in between the aircraft. So there's many different reasons why you won't take off and why you might take off. Okay. Great. Let's see, guys. I can take one more super chat question if you guys want to. Otherwise, I'm going to finish this off because my wife will literally kill me if I don't pick her up. Let's see, so there's no one coming in. Guys, this has been a fantastic live stream. I really hope that you've enjoyed it. Now, go into the Mentour Aviation app. There's going to be more discussions going on in the chat in there. And like I said, if you want to support the app part, now the app and channel are different. Okay, so I keep them apart. The app I want to continue to work with, but I need to find a good revenue source in order for it to kind of not cost money to maintain. And the way that I've done it now is with these monthly videos that you can go in and you can get if you want to support the app. So do that if you have the app. Have an absolutely fantastic day wherever you are out there in the world. Remember that there will be a new video coming up on Friday, and there's going to be another live stream on Sunday, providing that there is nothing unexpected happening. Have an Oh, let's see, there was a last minute super chat here. Add more time to your live. I've been doing this for 1 hour and 3 minutes. I've lost my voice, okay? I cannot speak for more than an hour straight. But I'm glad that you guys want me to continue. Have an absolutely fantastic week, guys. As always, if you have some questions during the week and you want to contact me, Mentour Aviation app. If I'm down on the ground, I will get, if you just tag me with a little alpha mentor, then I will get that message. And if I'm available and I have nothing else to do, I will go in and I will answer it. So get that. Once again, I don't know how many times I've said this now. Have a fantastic week, guys. Bye-bye.